Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to another episode of the Reinvention Show, the place where we come together to talk about how do we not just survive the accelerating speed of change and the constant disruption, but how do we actually thrive in it? How do we learn to use the forces that are volatile and uncertain and disruptive and turn them into the opportunity? And today we have a very difficult topic. It will not be a topic that you can skirt around the issues, and it will not be a place where I offer you some easy fixes or simple answers. It will be a deep and difficult conversation about war and how the war that is unfolding right now, and we have more than one front of an actual violent conflict. We have, of course, Russia's war in Ukraine. We have a terrific situation in Yemen, and there's more than one place around the world where we are either actively engaged in or in a post violent conflict. But all of those wars are a symptom, not the root cause. There are more than one root cause, but today I want to talk about the one that we perhaps don't often talk about and that really lies at the root and will touch every single one of us, regardless of what region we live in, regardless of what beliefs we share, regardless of what situations we're involved in. The root cause that is showing up as the effect in certain regions is actually universal for the entire humanity. And I want to talk about that today. Before that, let me welcome all of you. Let me know where you're joining me from. Let me know in the comments. I'm still in Columbus, Ohio. I'm excited to be here with you. And as you can see, I am in the middle of rather big stress. Of course, family members in different regions and very intense experience that this most recent conflict presents for the community that has common roots is having installed. But let me know in the comments where are you joining me from and how can I greet you. I'm very excited to see you. I'm still in the US. Let me know where are you joining me from. We are a very international community most of the time, and I'm very honored that you're taking this time to explore what is going on around the world and why the war is not a temporary thing unless we start reinventing our way out of the conditions in which we got. So today I want to talk about linear and circular economy and the issue of resources. As you know, every war, whatever is the reason it's presented in the public, the actual root cause is always boiling down to resources. Every war has at least one of the major factors of why it's happening is specifically the limited resources. And if in the past it was limited by the region, of course, we had two Second World Wars that were having a greater impact in most corners of the earth. There is a deeper issue that is happening right now that nobody will be spared from. And it has to do with where we are with resources. So I see US is here. Hi, Debbie. I see Bosnia is here. And of course, Bosnia survived horrendous and terrific wars, not just once, but most recently, of course, the siege of Sarajevo and the war that happened in the 90s. So you know more than anyone, perhaps, on this live stream, the impact of the war in the short and the long run. But today I want to talk about one factor that perhaps we don't spend enough time on, and it's becoming more and more urgent for us to reinvent our way out of the mess that we've created. And I'm talking about resources. So if you haven't watched my TEDx talk from, I want to say 2013, 2014, on innovation in a resource deprived world, this will be a very quick recap. And I invite you to watch that TEDx talk and get more information and more pragmatic suggestions of what to do with all of it. But if you come back to the root cause of most wars, most of them come back to resource deficiency. It's a fight for resources. And here's why this is now not a localized fight. It's becoming a global issue. If you look at our global economy, you can imagine, if you simplify our global economy, you can imagine it as this one long line. We take something out of the earth, if it's mining, maybe it's a mountain or the land, agriculture, we take something out of agriculture, or fishing, seafood, or other forms of fishing. We take something out of the earth, a molecule. We process that molecule most of the times only once, and in most cases, not even once. We trash most of what we get out of the earth, even before we ever have a pragmatic use for it. And then at the end of the process, it goes into the trash. Absolute majority of everything we get out of the earth is used only once. That is why this is called a linear economy. You can also call it throwaway economy. For example, we take oil out of the earth. We use it only once to produce this marker. This plastic is made out of oil. And then at the end of its use, we do not recycle it. Absolute majority, well over 90% of everything we produce is not recycled. We trash it out. The problem we are facing right now, and this problem has been highlighted for decades, but we're coming to the absolute crisis situation, is that at the global level, and forgive me for being blunt, but it's time to be as blunt as I can. At the global level, we're running out of things to mine and running out of places to trash. If you think about our ocean, one of the places that we put a lot of our trash in, for decades now, the experts that are taking the tests of the condition of the oceans tell us that when they pull a net with seafood, they're finding sometimes 10 plus times more plastic than plankton. Our toilet, our ocean can be compared to a giant toilet that doesn't flush. That's how our specialists are calling our oceans a giant toilet that doesn't flush. If you think about resources, of course, this particular war of Russia and Ukraine, is very much linked to the issue of gas and oil. And we've been in a situation where it was time to reinvent. Remember, when we talk about reinvention, we talk about S cycles. So this is the current cycle where we use petroleum and fossil fuels. And it's time for us to reinvent and come to new sources of energy. The problem, however, is that if you do not reinvent on time, if you do not reinvent preventatively, if you reinvent on the full part of the cycle, the chances of you coming back to the historic peak of your performance are only 10%. You're done. And this is what's happening with our oil. We're too late. When it comes to oil, gas, coal, fossil fuels, we're too late with developing a new curve. And the longer we wait, the more it becomes an acute disease. If you think about it, it's like a diabetes. If you start in the preventative care with healthy lifestyle, with food and exercise, you can prevent the most difficult effects of diabetes. But if you don't do that, you can get to the point that you can lose your sight, you can lose your legs and hands, your feet due to gangrene, or you can lose your life. And this is what's happening with our dependency on oil. We are not preventatively. We are not reinventing on time. And we become victims and hostages of our own dependency on fossil fuels. But at least when we talk about fossil fuels in a linear economy, we mine, we use it once, we trash. In the linear economy, at least when we talk about fossil fuels, we are paying attention to them. It's on everyone's mind. A couple of days ago, we're listening to the expert opinion of a retired Navy officer, US Navy officer, who was speaking about how the dependency on fossil fuels in US is a direct threat to national security of the US. First time I saw such a senior official. He also, after retiring from Navy, was an ambassador in Saudi Arabia. And he was one of the most vocal speakers on the issue that dependency on oil is putting us into a situation where we are not able to make decisions. We are not able to develop on time. We are in a firefighting mode instead of being in a preventative mode. But at least oil, talking about linear economy, is something we pay attention to. There are other resources. Take soil, for example. Around the world, worldwide, we're seeing massive loss of soil. Soil is a resource. Soil is not a guaranteed resource. If the soil does not continuously get new organic matter, meaning old leaves, scraps of food, dying animals, and on and on and on, if our soil does not get those resources, it cannot produce the new compost. The microbes and the other type of living organisms that live in soil have nothing to eat. And when they have nothing to eat, they die out. And our soil becomes sand. So if you just Google right now the global crisis around soil, you will discover, to much of your horror, that the prediction is that by 2035, not 1935, 2035, just 13 years from today, if we do not change our behavior, around Chicago, we're expecting full-on famine because of the loss of soil. Here in the US, Chicago, we're expecting famine and civil wars because our soil is depleting at the rate that we'll have no food, no capacity to produce food, because instead of soil, we suddenly have sand. If you add living organism and organic matter to sand, it becomes soil. But if you remove the organic matter from soil, it becomes sand. So we now, you can Google that too, we have a global crisis around most of our soil turning into deserts. And that's what's projected in a very near future. So when we're talking about global situation around wars, the war is the last stage. It's like the gangrene in diabetes. This is the last stage, the effect. The cause is the linear economy in which we are running out of things to mine and running out of places to trash. It's not the only cause. Of course, there are others. But fundamentally, we as humanity are coming to the stage where global and local wars will become omnipresent unless we reinvent our way into a different future. And what is that way? How can we reinvent our way into a different future? Well, it's what nature has done for billions of years. Nature is not linear. It does not have trash. The trash of one process is the food for another. So when my cat was alive, it would hunt in our backyard and would kill mice and chipmunks. But then when he died and we buried him under the tree, flowers and grass grew out of him so that butterflies and bees can pollinate, and the bees can produce the honey that I eat. And then I die, and if I'm lucky and I'm put into earth in a coffin that can be biodegradable, then my body becomes soil too. And it's a circle of life. And that is the reinvention. When we take our linear economy and we make it into a circle, we find a way to create such products and services that at the end of their life, they're not trashed, but they become resource for the next step. And this biggest reinvention of our global economy has been happening for a few years now, if not decades. And I'm honored to see that slowly but surely, this practice, this greatest reinvention of our time, where we take a linear economy and all of us are partners in this economy. This is mining, this is oil and gas extraction. There are many raw material production here. There's a supply chain, middle of the supply chain here. There's manufacturing here. There is retail here. There's processing of cash, and everyone is supported by IT, by banking, by insurance, by other services. This is all of us. Every single company on the planet Earth is part of the cycle. We are going through the most massive and most important reinvention of all. We're moving from linear to circular economy. But that move, of course, is very, very difficult, because to build a circular business, you have to change your paradigm, you have to change your tools, you have to change everything you do. And to make that a little bit easier for you, a few years ago, I don't even remember when I wrote this book. I think it published in 2014, so that is what, 8 years ago, but I wrote it 9, 10 years ago. We published a book called Overfished Ocean Strategy, Powering Up Innovation for a Resource-Deprived World. And when I was writing this book, of course, I was building on the work of Blue Ocean Strategy, but speaking about the fact that maybe we have many opportunities. The idea of a Blue Ocean Strategy is the idea that you have to find market space where there is opportunity, blue ocean, no competition, instead of fighting with other competitors. And my point was, the ocean can be red or blue, strategically speaking, but it's overfished. There's no resources. But if you know the right principles, you can power up innovation in this resource-deprived world, and you can actually turn this new reality into opportunity. If you would like to read a chapter from this book, put in the comments, I want a chapter, and we'll find a way to get it to you so that you can start getting your head into the principles. But the principles that we described here with a lot of cases and examples were 5 different principles. Number 1 is from line to circle. Another one is from vertical to horizontal. And another one is about product versus value, where the growth will come from. So give me in the comments word chapter, and we will find a way to get a chapter for you from this book. But I want to give you an example of what does it mean practically. If we understand that a lot of the wars are happening because our linear economy is depleted. We're running out of things to mine, running out of soil and things to create in terms of food supply. We're running out of fish. We're running out of pretty much every resource that is available to us. And we're also running out of place to trash. We simply have not enough landfill left anymore. And it's time for us to go from linear to circular economy. That is a very complex task, and it seems very overwhelming. So where do I start? Where do I pragmatically start? So I want to give you an example of where do most companies start and most individuals. You know the old saying, reduce, reuse, recycle, but I want to give you an example of innovation that arrived to my home yesterday. And it is about reducing. It's about eliminating and reducing the use of resources that are not really necessary to produce the value. It's so important that we understand that the value we create is not always matching the resources we take to produce the value. And here's an example. Yesterday, I got from Amazon a box of tea I love. This is the tea I love from my childhood, not childhood, we didn't have it in the childhood, but from my time in Kazakhstan. This is my favorite tea, is a raspberry black tea. And just a month ago, this exact box was shipped to me in another box. Amazon Prime used to ship this by placing this box inside its own branded box, using the plastic tape, using additional packing materials just to ship me this box. Complete waste of resources. That's paper, that's water required to produce that paper, that's electricity wasted, That's plastic tape, completely unnecessary. As of this month, Amazon no longer places products in their original boxes into separate branded boxes. It now arrives in its own packaging, no additional packaging. That's a simple reinvention. This is not breakthrough. This is not innovation. This is a simple reinvention. But if you see the statistics on how many packages Amazon delivers every day, you will see that this is a huge cut of the resources. So we start our process of moving from linear to circular economy with the first few things. Can I reduce resources? Can I reuse resources? Can I reduce resources? Can I reuse resources? So what can you do in your own immediate environment, in your house, in your environment of different kind? Can you reduce the resources you use? Can you reuse them? Things like paper, for example. We recycle it, we use it on both sides, and then we use it to start the fire in the backyard. Can it be part of your new lens of looking at your corporate world like this one? Is there somewhere where there is a waste of resources, where packaging is unnecessary? Can we reduce? Can we reuse something? So I invite you to think about similar simple examples. We have to start simple. This is so overwhelming. This is huge. This is fundamental, but it's so overwhelming that we need to simplify it. And we need to use gamification, make it fun, make it like a game. So can you find an example in your own life, in your own company, maybe as a customer? Have you seen an interesting example where resource use was reduced or where resource was reused at least one more time? Put it in the comments. If you remember such example, put it in the comments after we finish the show. Let's build a library of interesting examples of reinvention so that we collectively can accelerate this process and not do it as a complete reactive firefighting situation, but actually be preventative, proactive in this move from linear to circular economy. Because I have no doubt, if we do not find a way to come back to resource stability and resource security, if we cannot find a way out of fossil fuels, if we cannot find a way to preserve and sustain the soil and agriculture, if we cannot find a way to preserve and sustain biodiversity, we will see a continuous growth of wars, local, regional, and global. And that is not the world I want for my child. I know that's not the world you want for your child. So I invite you to share the resources. I invite you to share fun examples. Let's not feel hopeless here. There's massive amount of reinvention happening all over the world and great stories. So I invite you to share them in your comments. In the meantime, as I said, if you want a chapter, put it in the comments. We'll find a way to get you this chapter. Second thing, to learn a little bit more about different tools of how can you make reinvention easier in your company or in your career, make sure you download the free 87-page preview of my latest book, The Chief Reinvention Officer Handbook, How to Thrive in Chaos, and flip to the end of that PDF where you will find the most beloved tool that we offer, which is the Stellar Strategy model. And it will help you. It's a very pragmatic tool. So when you get it, you will see it looks like this. And you will be able to build a more robust strategic planning that will make you more adaptive and make you ready to address some of these biggest challenges humanity is facing. And finally, every few months, we host a kind of camp for adults, a fun virtual camp for adults called Easy Reinvention Lab. Every time, professionals from all over the world, about 500 plus, sometimes even 700 professionals from every corner of the world come together for 5 days It's a 1.5 hour day that is needed from you to participate in a live show, in a live experience, and then do the workbook. It's 5 days. It's completely free. It's completely open to all. You can bring your team. You can bring your clients. It is very interactive and it's very pragmatic, step-by-step tools on how do we reinvent ourselves out of the mess we find ourselves in. Our next Easy Reinvention Lab is in April, and this lab specifically is designed for consultants, trainers, and coaches, even if you are internal consultant. So if you're inside the corporate world and you're a consultant internally, or business trainer or business coach internally, if you're in a nonprofit sector, we have mass number of people, consultants, trainers, and coaches in the nonprofit sector that are using the tools very successfully in churches, in educational institutions, in non-profit organizations like Boys and Girls Club and Rotary and all of that. So we invite you to join our April Lab so that we collectively can learn how do we prevent wars from happening. And if we have not been able to prevent them, how do we reinvent our way out of the mess we are. I appreciate the feedback, Akash. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Akash. I loved working with Scholar. I've been with Scholar for years. Please download the free 85-page of the book, the Chief Reinvention Officer Handbook, How to Thrive in Chaos. Share it with your team and Caller. You will see the link in the lab. So you will see here in the on the LinkedIn, just a second, just find this link, download the free preview, and you will be able to use with your team. Thank you for your kind comments. I absolutely loved working with Caller for so many years. So thank you so much. Here you have it. This is my input for today. I know this seems way too big. It's like, where is linear economy and where is me? Unfortunately, the time where that kind of question was possible has passed. The problems with resource depletion are coming home to every single one of us. As I mentioned earlier, the statistics suggest that if we don't reinvent our way with soil and agriculture, in just 13 years, we're expecting famine in Chicago. This is home. And that is true for every region around the world. We're looking at massive transformation, and we're looking at an opportunity to find a new and better way to doing our business, our careers, our communities. So please download the book. Please come to the next Easy Reinvention Lab. As I said, that specifically one is for consultants, coaches, trainers, educators, even if you work in a nonprofit sector or if you're an internal consultant or service provider. That also works very well. Come to the next Easy Reinvention Lab. It's always free. It's always online. You can bring your team. You can actually have exercises done with your team every day. And by the end of 5 days, you have an actionable plan. We had companies who literally reinvented themselves. Whole department participated in labs, and throughout the lab in just a few days had a plan at the end of the week and had alignment, mobilization, energy. So come to the lab. We would love to see you all. And thank you for joining me for this very difficult conversation on wars and the global need for reinvention. I thank you so much for being here. I wish you the most amazing end of the week. If you think this broadcast will be helpful for someone, please share it on your own page. You can share it with your community and your network and invite them for a conversation. And of course, please do share the resources you pick up here, whether it's a handbook or the lab. We help big community to get reinvention and resilience skills they all need. So I invite you to share all of them. You don't need to ask for our permission. It's all yours. It's free anyway. Please do share. Please make it available for a greater community so that we all come out stronger, so that we all come out more resilient, more ready to turn this disruption into something that gives us joy, that gives us life, that gives us flourishing. Thank you all for joining me. Have an amazing end of the weekend.